Kevin McCullough.
Back from Times Square, Kevin McCullough, glad to have you with us on That Kevin Show. And in this festive time of Olympic activity, we've got several things related to athletics tonight. And I firmly believe, friends, that if you are not thinking through your choice in the elections this fall, we're going to get to a point where we wish we did very quickly. Because there are lots of issues that the two presidential candidates disagree on. There's not one that's more stark than the one we're discussing with Paula Scanlon of IWF. And I'm not speaking on her behalf or anybody else's, but if you don't understand that Kamala Harris is willing to put boys in your daughter's locker room, and she's not going to apologize for it. She thinks it's the right thing to do. Her moral worldview is warped on this. It's permanently dysfunctional. President Trump has said that he will end this practice upon being elected. There's a big difference here, and that's why we're telling this story. But Paula, you were taking us back to the first reality, and I've heard Riley's telling of the first time that she was forced to deal with him in the locker room at the championships. And how, or at one of the tournaments, it may not have been the championships, but it was at one of the, and to be, she put it in terms that it was almost, trauma that was undergoing. Was that the experience that the girls on your team would classify it as?
Absolutely. And it was not one championship that we had to deal with this at. We were forced to undress with him 18 times every single week.
Well, you being on his team, you had to deal with it all the time.
Yeah. And I would
girls
say
that swam on the other teams just here and there.
Yeah, I would say it was, a lot of us girls, I don't think even really processed how traumatizing it really was until after it was over. And I think a lot of people it was just shocking. I think there was I felt so uncomfortable all the time, but I just didn't even really know what to do about it. Again, every time we tried to raise concerns about it, we were told we were the problem. We were told we were hateful. We were told that this is what you have to deal with if you want the right to. They
labeled you as a bigot because you were genuinely uncomfortable being disrobed in a room with another man against your will.
Yes, and they also told us that if we still felt that way, that we should seek psychological counseling, and they gave us the number for a therapist.
Wait, hold on. I just want my viewers and listeners to understand the full import of what you're saying. You have your God-given conscience, and it's going off. I don't want to be in this room. This feels wrong. It feels unsafe, whatever. I don't want to be disrobed. I'm not married to this man. There's no right to access this intimacy with this person. And we would normally have called that in society, in good society for the past generations, we would say that was a self-protective mechanism kicking in, that you were doing, your body was telling you, your mind was telling you, your heart was telling you something's not right here. It needs to change. And the authorities said that you were the one that was dysfunctional, not the guy pretending to have genitalia other than what he had.
Yes. They, again, continually told us it's on us. It's our problem. We need therapy. We need help. And they also told us we would never be able to find a job, and we would be labeled as hateful for the rest of our lives if we ever said anything against him in any way, shape, or form.
Did any of you guys bring up, or gals bring up, the idea of the 1920s feminists and Title IX and the whole reason women's sports exists is for a competitive, safe place for you guys to do your best at?
I would try to, but again, it was just, the best way to explain it is just gaslighting. They simply told us, if you identify as a woman, you are one. So to them, that ruling doesn't actually, they're like, oh, this is still working because he's actually a woman. And that is, again, the messaging that was sent to us. And this wasn't just at my school. This was at all of the schools that raced against us. The girls at Harvard, for example, they were sent in writing in this letter that said, if you speak out against this, you will contribute to someone committing suicide. That is what they were told. And so this, again, it was not just my school, it was all the other Ivy League schools. It was many of the schools that raced against us. It was just at every level. It was the administration was doing this to you. Your athletic department was doing this to you. Your coaches couldn't do anything. Their hands were tied. And if they spoke out against it, they would get fired, and they would put in a coach that would allow it. So there's nothing they could even do either. Again, the NCAA super inactive about this. They received thousands of letters from many of us and did nothing to change these rules.
We have about 30 seconds left. Where do things stand right now? Has the NC2A, I know that there's a lawsuit being filed, but what's the latest?
As of now, they just said the governing body of each sport gets to decide what they want for the rules, meaning that it's not equal across sports. Whatever each governing body determines is the rule, and they're not willing to make a consistent rule that keeps men out of women's sports.
Paula, thank you for being brave enough to speak up, but thank you for coming on our show and telling us about it. And I hope that we can have you back.
Stick around for more of That Kevin. Next, That Kevin Show with Kevin McCullough.